Well, when I looked at the highest converting ads that I had run, and I do this pretty regularly, I look for different components. Sometimes I'm like, what's the hook? Sometimes I'm like, what's the color scheme? What's the visuals that are being displayed in the first however many seconds? And in this one particular pass, I just looked at the grade level of the language that was being spoken. And the reason I looked at that, I think it was 1 or 2 election cycles ago. I had heard this research study that had stated that the president who spoke in the lowest grade language was the one that won the election over and over again. And when I heard that, I see presidential elections fundamentally as massive brand campaigns. And so I see that as they were able to communicate a message to a higher percentage of the population because they lowered the barrier to entry of comprehension, meaning more people got what they said. And so when I hear that, I thought, man, I like to use all these big fancy college words and no one knows what I'm saying. And so all I do is feed my ego, not my bank account. And so I made one of my big marketing rules, clear, not clever. And so you want to take whatever communication is, look at your landing pages, look at your ad copy, look at the words you're saying in your content and say, does a third grader understand this? And the point that some people try to make as a counter is like, oh, I don't want to talk down to my audience. No. When you speak in a more broken down manner, you help the experts understand it more easily, and you help the beginners understand it for the first time. And so it's not that experts are all of a sudden saying, oh, no, I don't believe that. Because listen, we get tons of very big companies that come to acquisition.com for investment. And the guys who run those companies, very intelligent. But I try to make my videos in a way that people can understand them because who do I prove when I use a big word and then all of a sudden 3/4 of the audience can't understand it? And if the point of me making these videos is to make real business education accessible for everyone, part of it making it accessible is making it interesting, making it fun, and making it comprehensible, which is just a fancy word for understandable. And what you guys don't see behind the scenes is that I will typically self-edit. And so I said distilled earlier in a sense, and then I said broken down for experts, is because I said distilled and I was like, I have to use a different word, broken down. And then I said comprehensible, and then I said fancy word for understandable. And so I try to constantly catch myself in this, and it's also made me a significantly more effective leader. So if I'm trying to communicate with my team, I'm not trying to say big words. I don't want to impress them. I want to change what they do. And so I've taken this to such an extreme that with my books, I just use little stick figures, right? I have these little drawings. It's like, oh, look, here's a guy who's walking on a path. Look, little apple, orange, big dollar sign, little dollar sign, right? We try to make this as simple as possible so that people can understand what's actually going on. Because if you can explain it to a third grader, and this is Richard Feynman who said this, is a famous physicist. He said, if you can explain it to a third grader, then you understand it. If you can't, you don't, and you need to understand it better so that you can break it down. And so the broader the audience, the broader the analogy, and the simpler the language.